Good morning, my name is Ian Tindale, and I'm going to take you back to 1979. However, 1979 in Australia. It's an Australian film based on the Vietnam War and the Australian forces' part in it. Now, particularly the tour of duty of an Australian Special Air Service Regiment reconnaissance team. Bill, in this film, is a young man, newly recruited to the Aussie SAS, and he arrives for his tour of duty, which would be expected to be about a year. Harry, already there, is the corporal. Been there quite a while, the oldest of the section, and he's a lot more experienced in life than most of the other men there. So he has authority, but he's also very kind and humorous, and the men look up to him for guidance. There's lots of humour in the film, from a very Australian point of view, and there's lots of beer. The biggest problems are not really the enemy initially, but the mud, and finding something to occupy themselves with in the plentiful downtime, and the predictable torrential rain in the afternoon that you can basically set your watch by. Eventually, the realities of war do come to meet them, as their camp is hit by a barrage, injuring several people. A patrol operation takes place after this in the thick of the jungle. One of the men becomes wounded. Now, from this point on, the film covers their long patrols with short bouts of engagement with the distant and hidden enemy. Mines and booby traps are a constant threat. There's a classic scene involving the men planning on giving the camp padre a present, which is a box with a handle on it and a hole at the other end and feathers inside attached to the handle. And they present it to the padre at a little mock ceremony, expecting him to ask what it is, innocently. And he, in return, in the presentation speech, responds with a tribute to the men. And in closing, points out that this is the most well-constructed wanking machine that he has ever seen. And with that, he puts it under his arm and confidently strides off, to the crestfallen looks on the men's faces. In other scenes, they challenge for example, they challenged the nearby American troops to a contest, the Australians' Scorpion against the Americans' Tarantula Spider, with much betting involved, but it quickly descends into an immense drunken fight. In a quiet moment, the men ask Harry what he was doing before he came into the army. And he mentions that he was a professional artist, and then his wife had left him, so he joined the army. And he points out to the men under him that nobody back home, this is in Australia, nobody back home will care or thank them for the effort and bravery during this Vietnam conflict that Harry increasingly sees as pointless, badly run and futile. The film is quite an important film in Australian film history, and also features a few actors of note. Brian Brown plays a young soldier, Rogers, and this is one of his first major film parts before he became immensely successful in America in the following decade. Graham Kennedy plays Harry, the older and more experienced corporal. Now, Graham Kennedy in this film has a very serious part, but in reality, he was a comedic game show host for many years, hosting a show called Blankety Blank. This is Graham Kennedy here. And he was a very much loved character in Australia. Always very funny, always very witty. The film received criticism when it came out for not criticising Australia's participation in the Vietnam War. Now, the response of Tom Jeffrey, the director and producer, was that, well, it simply wasn't that kind of film. It was focused solely on how the men survived in such a situation. I consider this a very good film. If you get a chance, do watch it. If you like these, think about subscribing, and certainly do like this video, and have a good weekend no matter what you do. Thank you very much. My name is Ian Tindale. Goodbye.